Hello, hello, one and all, LEGO Masters fans alike. Welcome to the Episode 9 recap. Now, it's been a while since we've seen you guys. Been a long time. We're essentially going to be doing 3 back-to-back recaps of every episode. I have Thrawns with me. I have Christian from All Out Brick with me. And yeah, we're going to talk all things LEGO Masters. Next week is the finale, and while I was out of town, 3 episodes aired. We have episode 9 that we're going to be talking about now. Basically, this episode was the Land and Sea episode. Now, from what we saw, it was one of the most difficult challenges yet, just because of the fact that these teams who had gotten so used to working with each other were forced to be separated. They put a wall of Lego brick in between them. One was told to do land, one was told to do sea, and our 5 teams were put to the test as far as being able to come up with something separately of their own brain, on one side and the other brain on the other, and put them together and be able to meld the land and sea. And then there was, of course, the reveal after that challenge that they were to combine them and create a final story between the two. And what's really fascinating is you had things like Mark and Steven with the giraffe and the jellyfish, or the coral and the penguin, and these things that you wouldn't think could really go together normally, but they pulled it off. A lot of these teams, we are in the final stages of this competition, of this show. And at this point, every team is incredible. I could say that last week, I could have said that 2 weeks ago, but by now, they've filtered it down to such hardcore builders, these guys who just really know what they're doing. They are the best. They are literally the best in the country, potentially the best in the world, these teams. So it's hard really for these judges now to find their nitpicks, really, because it's really hard for them. They've been working in the Lego industry forever, and you could tell, I think, in these 3 episodes that we're about to talk about here, just how difficult it really is for them to find the points where they have, viable criticisms, because at this point everyone's firing on all cylinders, everyone's giving it their all. So yeah, incredible episode in general. I really liked it. Before we get started, Christian, you have anything to say?
It's good to be back. I know we've been on a couple-week hiatus here with everything, and man, it's good that the 3 of us are all clear with our schedule, and we're going to have a ton of stuff to talk about today. There's some great episodes, some great builds to get into, so I'm excited.
Yeah, Thrawn?
Yeah, super. There is a lot to talk about. It's going to be super interesting to see where everyone lands on these 3 episodes and how everyone's feeling. I think this might be a really opinionated video, honestly.
Definitely, no, and I'm excited for that for sure. I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and start with talking about the first one I have on the list here, which is Michelle and Natalie's. This is I'll pull it up. I'll make it a little bigger for all the viewers to see. This building that they had to do was, I guess what they called it was the Ratillion in Budapest, which is definitely a funny little play on words. I think a handful of these teams did that. So essentially what they were doing here is, I think it was one of them had sea, and they were gonna do this kind of ocean character, almost like an eel, but you also had a rat. I think it was Natalie who was basically trying to do a jellyfish, but then found out that Mark and Steven were also doing a jellyfish via, I think Will Arnett was the one that kind of let them know, just so you know, they're doing a jellyfish just across the pond. And so she was immediately like, well, thanks for telling me. I'm going to be smart, and I'm going to try something different. And that's exactly what they did here. And at the end of the day, I think what really worked in this build, specifically for me, is the color of the kind of, I guess, foundation all matches really well. I like the sort of little underwater-esque trees that they've built. It's interesting because I would see this as underwater because you have land and sea, but you could also look at this as taking place on land as well. I think when you break down these sort of kind of hanging greenery that they have here. It's very much been that strong suit of theirs throughout the competition that we've seen, is they've been able to kind of work this living environment into their builds. The rat itself is, I guess, what, Ratillion. It's like a reptile rat. Is pretty good, but as far as like my favorite of the builds, this is probably was one of my lower tier favorites. But they managed to meld these two worlds together pretty well. Of course, at this point, like I've said, all of these teams are like, firing on all cylinders. But yeah, it's maybe not my favorite build out of all the ones we're about to look at. But when it comes to the challenge, which is combining what they each created separately to kind of work together and meld together well, they definitely did a good job on that. And were able to make it, obviously, into the next episode. So good on them for not getting disqualified here and being able to make it work. Yeah, overall, I enjoyed seeing them working together at this point in the series. Will Arnett, I think, because there are far fewer teams, has a little more time to socialize and sort of have this camaraderie with the teams and really kind of interaction that we didn't get to see as much of in the earlier episodes, which I really like. So we're starting to see that here. Him and Natalie have a really good chemistry too. He's always joking about how she's going to take over the host role next season. So yeah, all in all, it was great to see them working together. And I think, again, like, Will Arnett loves this team too and loves talking with them and all that. So it was great to see this. Let's toss it to you, Christian. What were your thoughts on Ratillion and Budapest?
All right. Well, awesome name.
Yeah, the cheese.
Gotta give him that awesome name.
Gouda.
I agree with what the judges had to criticize about this, and that there's a lot of yellow going on here. It's not such a problem with the base. I think it makes a great base, all of that yellow, and they got the mousetrap thrown in there. However, when you look at the yellow that's on the spine of the Ratillion, it just completely goes away. Like, you can't tell it's there, and it's unfortunate. I think it would have been a little bit better if you could see him, but definitely not their best build. Really, I don't think many people had their A game builds when it came to this challenge, but I think it definitely was disappointing for their standards of what they can do in building, and it's just an oversight with the color combination there.
Thrawn, what about you? What were your thoughts?
Honestly, this was my least favorite one. I feel that the colors were very bland. I feel the combination of rat and what, the sea cucumber, was it? I think
an eel. Was it
eel?
Yeah,
I thought it was a sea cucumber.
No, I was so confused. I thought it was an eel, sea cucumber, and it was like, okay, Gouda cheese. Okay, is it underwater?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I understand where they went with. I think this did not play for their strengths, in my opinion. I feel that if they had maybe chosen two very different animals, the combination of this could have worked out better for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the yellow is super bland. The actual combining of them, I really didn't enjoy. Like, I see the head of a mouse and the body of a sea cucumber. I do not see a unification of the two ideas, and that to me felt really clashing.
Right.
1 second.
I mean, it's interesting too, because with the team that was unfortunately disqualified, who were my favorite going forward.
Yeah, I like that build way more than this
But when
one.
the judges are talking about this, they're often saying, as much as we could say the build maybe looks better or is more appealing to me personally, there's the challenge of like melding the two worlds together. And I guess this just to the judges, this was just a little more cohesive. But I hear you. I hear you guys. Definitely wasn't
I'm looking
my
at it,
favorite.
and it's like, is it more cohesive? I think the big problem with, and we'll get to that build, so I won't say too much now, but looking at this one, it really is like the rat head is just slapped on top of the body. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of blending going on there. And yeah, I mean,
it's jarring. It feels jarring, I think.
Right. Well, I mean, they managed to make it forward, and that's another thing. It's just like, it's about pleasing the judges, and it's also about, trying to get outside of your comfort zone, which a lot of these teams are being kind of forced to do at this point. So let me see. Let me pull up our next one so we can get moving here. Our next one on the docket is number 2. This is, Dave and Richard. Let's go ahead and just get talking about Dave and Richard. Now, Dave and Richard, up to this point, were personally me and my roommates' favorite team. I just feel like they've been playing it really even keel and chill. They haven't been too cocky about things. They've been just a very good team. Unlikely, too, because they didn't know each other before the competition. So seeing them make it this far has already been really nice to see. And, they were given the same challenge as everyone else, and they decided to go with a penguin and then a sort of coral. And, interesting that, the coral at the end here, and this is unfortunately probably one of the reasons they were disqualified, isn't as present. It's, in the mohawk, right? And it's in some of the designs of the penguin itself. It's basically he's wearing coral, but...
Yeah.
It's more like he's on a street corner. He's a punk rocker. I mean, I love that. Personally, I love that. He's playing to earn fish for, his meal for the day. When I look at it, it's pleasing to the eye. I love the little jukebox that he has going there, or I guess it's the amp for his guitar. There's a brick wall behind him. He has a poster, and just Poco Rocco in the CVGVs. I like the way they put a lot of creativity into this and had it, at least still in my opinion, be cohesive. Just it for me, it was more pleasing of a design. But unfortunately, and it sucks because, again, like I said, they were my favorite team up to this point. To see them get disqualified is very unfortunate. But their whole thing, and that's what the judges were saying, is when it comes to the actual challenge, we take that as it carries heavier weight at the end of the day when it comes to our decisions. So unfortunately, it was the last we saw of Dave and Richard. I loved them working together. I loved when he talked about his son wrote him a card. It was very touching. But, it's a TV show. When they show you moments of, someone being I'm here for my kids. This is something my kids wrote for me, getting really sentimental. You're like, uh-oh, they might be on the chopping block. So, I was still surprised that they weren't allowed to move forward, ahead of Michelle and Natalie. But at the end of the day, like I keep saying, a broken record I'm being here, but really the judges are looking at the actual, the challenge itself and how much they were able to really push themselves outside of their comfort zone. But that's Poco Rocco. Let's go ahead and Thrawn, your thoughts on Dave and Richard's final creation here.
I definitely think they were the underdog of this competition for sure. I agree that with the judges, the combination of the two elements could have been done better, but I don't think they should be eliminated. I think the amount of work they put into the rest of the build really shows their design abilities, and that to me I thought was more striking. Of the well done amp, the beautifully done guitar, the bricks in the background with the fish. They put a ton of detail into this. And
right.
It sucks that the competition is mostly focused on how can you unify these two drastically different elements. But I feel that the building quality really goes past just that. And I personally would have put them as that second, bottom second. Okay. Mostly because they didn't do as good of a job as other teams on the actual unification, but the rest of it is such a good presentation that I feel like I wanted to see them go on for at least one more, just to see what else they had up their sleeve.
Totally. How about you, Christian?
So I definitely think this is a better build than what Michelle and Natalie put out for this one. That being said, they didn't follow the challenge rules. As smooth and crisp and clean of a build as it is in the small things, they didn't do the challenge. They were supposed to make something that's never been seen before, this brand new animal. It's a penguin.
Yeah.
That to me, it stinks, and it really is just a unfortunate downfall of, I think it was Richard who built the coral. I mean, it's unfortunate that that's what you went with, because then how are you supposed to combine it?
Right.
But I mean, maybe they could have implemented it into his beak or something more. I don't know, but it just didn't follow the rules of the competition enough to, go out. Even though it is not the worst build of the day, it's actually one of the better ones, I think.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate. You see it all the time in these shows, though. Saw it a couple weeks ago on MasterChef. Someone didn't use a certain ingredient. Doesn't matter that they had the best dish. They were out. You gotta follow the competition rules.
Yeah, and that's how it goes. Again, like I said, I'm like a broken record here, but it's really coming down to the fact that all these builders are incredible at what they do. But these judges have to find a way to put someone on the chopping block. Someone's got to go. And so when it comes down to it, they got to choose someone. And it's like the technical details of the challenge itself not being met is kind of the one ticket out. So, yeah, I agree with you guys too, though. I personally liked it, I think, more than Michelle and Natalie's. But at the end of the day, they had to say goodbye, which is unfortunate because I really liked them as a team.
Crazy. They won half the challenges they were in.
Right?
They came in first place half the time.
They almost should get another award, like tallying up how many wins a single team had, because they were the ones that kept winning and winning and winning.
Yeah.
All right. So next we have Zach and Wayne's Heir of the Lion Croc, or Lair of the Lion Croc. Now this was awesome. This personally was my favorite. I'm surprised that Zach and Wayne didn't win this challenge. Because to me, just the blending of the colors, I think the almost like, when I first see it, like tigerfish is kind of this look that they were going for. This like tigerfish color with the stripes, and the amount of details on every little fin are just impeccable. And the crocodile, fitting the crocodile there too, melding these two animals, which is, melding two animals, two elements. That was the challenge. And personally, I think they probably did the best here when I'm just looking at it, face value. Also just watching the episode and seeing these two guys work together. They're incredible. I don't really have much else to say because that's it. I mean, it's really insanely well detailed. It's beautiful to look at. It looks literally like a hybrid fish alligator creation. So I enjoyed seeing this. I'm surprised that they didn't get the win, but at the same time, I'm glad the guys who got the win obviously got it. But I don't know. Let's take it to Christian first. All Out Brick. Your thoughts on Zach and Wayne's Lair of the Lion Croc?
This is a really good one. I thought it was a really good build. Looking at it right now, I didn't notice it the first time I watched the episode. That base is really cool. What they did there, the different color patterning. I really like that. I also noticed how the orange kind of bleeds into the crocodile's head just to create a bit of a smoother blend. The thing that got me was kind of a similar phenomenon as what happened with Michelle and Natalie's. When I first saw this, I really had a tough time distinguishing all of those different reeds from the lion croc. That's just my first glimpse. It was very distracting, all of those colors of the reeds. And so I think that's maybe where the judges saw this and was that's where they maybe docked him a little bit.
Right.
I also remember, I think they redid their crocodile head to a different size.
Yeah, they had to readjust it.
Yeah, and I think they might have been the only team that remade their animal. And I have no idea if that was also something that they took away from that wouldn't make sense, but they technically didn't combine them how everyone else did. I don't know.
Guess.
But
maybe that's something the judges. I remember when they were doing it, Will was like, "Oh my god, but you guys only have blah blah so much time left." But to me, I'd say that's impressive. The fact that they were able to recontextualize the model so that way it fit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, really awesome model. They deserve to be in the top 2 for sure.
Oh yeah, totally. Thrawn, how about you? Your thoughts on Zach and Wayne's Lair of the Lion Croc?
I thought the two models separately, I thought, were very, very beautifully done. I really enjoyed how they were designed. I really enjoyed the techniques that they used. The combination, I will agree, definitely feels similar to Natalie's, and I forget the other girl already.
They just slapped a head on it?
So less that and more of, I feel that in some areas the unification doesn't feel as solid as it should be. They did at least put in the color differences in certain areas, but I think they could have gone a lot more playful with this, a lot more unusual with this. It does feel like, here's a crocodile, and in the setter, we just chopped an anglerfish, or anglerfish, and just shoved it in there, right? but the sculpting of it really, I think, brings it out and helps it get a lot higher than like, probably an average spot.
Right. Yeah.
It's very, very beautifully sculpted. The snot on the side construction, I think, is really good with like the striping and stuff.
Mhm.
The fins are really large and flowy. And then they did a fairly good job with the time left with their,
Yeah.
exterior area. So I definitely really liked this one. I thought it was pretty cool. I could be very critical of it, but all in all, it's still fairly good. There's a different build that I have more to say on, but we'll get there when we get there.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean, going forward for me, they're like now that David Richard are disqualified or were kicked. They are like my favorite team. I'd say I'm vouching for them just because I think, I mean, it's hard. Like we'll talk about it, but after the next episode, it's like gonna be crazy. These like brothers that these teams of brothers that have made it.
Yeah.
I love all of their
Mm-hmm.
dynamics. It's really tough to choose or to decide. But all right, let's go on to the next guy, which is number 4. This is Mark and Steven's Jelloraph. I mean, this is. I will give it to Mark and Steven. They have gone through so many hurdles, so many moments of just like, how are they gonna pull this off? Really having to work hard outside of their wheelhouse. And for one of them to be doing a giraffe, one of them to be doing a jellyfish, not knowing, like, how do you combine that? And they pulled it off. Like, it's not, like, super pleasing to the eye. Again, like, it was going to be hard. 2 different animals, land and sea, like, colliding. Like, that's very difficult. It's always going to look weird. But, I like the terrain that they built around it. It matches with the giraffe and the jellyfish. And, like, their story that they built, too, is also funny. They incorporated Will into it, saying, like, evil Will drained all the oceans of their water, and this is what they had to do. But, I guess I don't know. For me, it's, like, was middle of the road. It still looks great, and it's incredible that they were able to accomplish what they did with this challenge, given the fact that they had a giraffe and a jellyfish. What are you going to do there? But, yeah, I guess that's... Thrawn, how about you? I'll just toss it over to you. What were your thoughts on the design and overall?
Oh boy, I'm about to get heated. I really did not like this design. This, I think, is the worst thing I've seen them do. And the reason I think this is not that the 2 animals separately they're both amazingly done animals. Absolutely.
Right.
What really hit them poorly in this, I think, was the drastic difference in scale. The giraffe is so tiny compared to this massive jellyfish, and I feel that the way they combined them was not very good. I feel they could have done so much better with this if they had probably more time. And I think it's that time constraint and them probably trying to figure out, like, how are we going to put together these 2 not only different animals, but different scaled animals and make it acceptable to the judges.
Right.
So
right.
For me, I think this was very disappointing in terms of their actual model and how it was done. The rest of it, I think, was very good. The landscaping, I thought was very interesting. The cactus-like plants, I thought were very unusual and sort of alien-like. It's just the model itself I found really disappointing from them, and I definitely think they could have done better.
Right. I hear you there. Christian, what did you think about the Jelloraph?
I mean, what a name. The scale definitely hit them hard with having just 2 very drastic. I like what they did with the legs. I thought that was clever.
Yeah.
The biggest issue I have, and something that I think would have really made this model a lot better, is if they switched out that stand of the jellyfish to a very different color. I think it being yellow really does not work when you combine the 2. It worked with just the jellyfish, but I think when you have the giraffe yellow and the legs all in those different colors, it really just does not create the separation that it should. How many clear bricks do they have on set? I have no idea. But even just like a white, like something to make those yellow and those jellyfish legs pop, I think really would have made it a lot better and would have made it a lot clear that it's like, on top of the jellyfish. I think it just gives sort of an illusion that it's like this big cylinder on the bottom, and
Yeah.
Then obviously, yes, the plants and the landscaping are great. And I think they knew maybe towards the end of this, like, hey, this is going to be what it is, our actual animal. Let's create a really, really awesome landscape to at least give us, because they were trying to,
Oh
and
yeah.
they succeeded, but they were attempting to hold on to that golden brick still at this point. They really
Yeah,
didn't want
they
to use
were.
it. And so I think when they took the look around the room and they were like, okay, if we nail this part of our build, we're good.
Yeah. I hear you there completely. Let's go to the chat real quick. We have Bios Growl. He's in. My mom's watching. That's Cole's Kiss. Says, got my beer and popcorn ready to enjoy the show. Thanks for tuning in. Cheesy Studios is here. Good stuff, man. Of
Let's
course.
go.
We love having you here. DJ Alistair says, what's up? Potato Man is here. What's up? And Brother from Another Brick. Awesome to see you here as well. Potato Man has a quick question. Dear LegomationStudio, are you going to continue the Volturize of Azeka series? No. No, I don't do stop motion animation anymore. I mean, and all those sets are up in the PNW, but that means that's a deep cut, man. I loved doing Frenemies. That was a fun little series. But back to Lego Masters. Let's go ahead and talk about Caleb and Jacob's. What is it? The Chameleobster. Chameleobster? Yeah, the Chameleobster in the bricky.
Come on, you got it. There you go.
They won, right, guys? So they were able to. Now it's interesting. Now the actual like chameleon lobster itself. This, I think the reason why they won is because the animal combination looks the best. Color-wise, combination-wise, I think they managed to pull something off here where it blended together just really well. The terrain, I remember, I think Jamie was saying it, like it was a little clunky, not too colorful. I don't know. I mean, he's on a rock, there's, little red, like flowers around him. I don't know. I thought they were nitpicking at that point. To me, this is like my second favorite out of all of the stuff we got to see from these Lego builders today. So congrats, Caleb and Jacob. Like, you deserved it. You've made it here. The drag race or the derby, demolition derby was a hard one. But you've managed to pull it through here, and I loved seeing this creation. To me, it looks great. Yeah, it's on a log, right? It's kind of like a log. There's some boulders around it in the water. I mean, it proved that, Brother from Another Brick says, this proved both brothers can build. Yeah, this is true, and I liked this a lot. I think it made sense why they won. I probably would have chose Zach and Win because I think from afar it looked cool. But again, the challenge was you have your environment and you have two animals that you combine together, and the environment stands out from the animal, and the animal itself, the combinations look great. So I don't know, I really like this. Let's go ahead. How about Christian first? All Out Brick, your thoughts on the Chameleobster.
I think the last point that you made there, Zach, is a really good one. The landscape and the animal both pop themselves. Like they don't get in each other's way. It's a very good presentation.
It's a challenge. Yeah.
And while it's not like the most advanced or it's exactly what it needed to be. And for me, looking at this, maybe you'll agree too, Zach. It just gives me the vibes of like a Bionicle combination of just it genuinely feels like this out of world animal. And
right.
I think out of all the models, this is the one that gave me that biggest feeling of like they created something new. Like looking at it, I don't know if I would immediately, like, obviously the lobster claws are going to stand out, but I think you look at it and it looks super well together. Just, the color combination's obviously very good.
Right.
But it's such a smooth transition that I think this one, for me, was the number one over Zach and Wayne because, like I said, with Zach and Wayne, I think their background got too distracting.
True.
Whereas in this case, the background and the animal complement each other and present each other very, very well supplementary.
Totally, I hear you. Thrawn, how about you?
Yeah, this was definitely my favorite one. And it's because like the log environment I feel is so well designed, of like the mixture of both an environment of the lobster, because there's like, freshwater crawfish and that kind of stuff, right? And then the chameleon with like the log, the background, the kind of like foresty environment, I thought was really awesome.
Right.
The combination of the two, again, I think it's because this challenge is just such a difficult thing to take two drastically different animals and fuse them together. I think there are aspects that could have been done better. I think the transition of lobster to chameleon, I could cut this guy in half right under the chameleon's head, and you can see where the separation of lobster and chameleon are. But compared to a lot of others, I think they did the best with the two drastically different animals. And the color scheme, I think of like the really dark blue and the like true red kind of color made it a very unique contrast to it, which made it feel almost realistic. Like there's like those poison dart frogs that are in like this same kind of color scheme. So it gave that sense of believability. And I think the way that the body was done, kind of like that bending, made it seem similar to the carapace of a lobster. So it really grounded a lot of the fusion that normally would be too clashing, I think. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Carapace. That's a really good analysis.
Carapace.
That's really good.
Did you mean to say Carapar?
No, I did not.
I'm joking. Nice. Yeah, so again, I think it definitely well deserved. Good job, Caleb and Jacob. Caleb, you killed it here. This was awesome. Let's move on to the final one, which is... Oh, wait, no. That was it, right? 5 teams. Hell yeah. So we finished... Brother from Another Brick says, yeah, Zach and Wayne continue to excel with everything. I'm biased because Wayne is just so lovely, so I don't know how I would have chosen anyone else in this case. Totally. Brother from Another Brick, all this episode proved on his own. Richard couldn't build. Dave could have taken it to number 1, but Richard held him back. Maybe. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing to recognize. Cheesy Studios says, they brought out, for the first time in this episode, those huge flex tube pieces. We had a heyday with those. Yeah, but did you have a heyday with the snakes? We'll talk about that on the next one.
So really quickly, Caleb, you said they brought out those for this episode. Do they make certain pieces only exclusive for certain challenges, and do they not give you the same access to pieces?
Yeah, that'll be a good question to ask you tomorrow as well.
Yeah. They I wonder if they change the bins every so often to like...
That's a good question. Let's write it down for the interview.
Write that down. Take notes.
No, actually, no. Someone. What are you guys?
Write that down. All right, we should continue on to the next one before we take too long.
Yeah, no worries. So, anyways, we'll wait and see if Caleb answers that in the chat section. But overall, really cool episode. A challenge we haven't seen before where teams are separated, so they can't really work together quite yet to do 2 different animals, combine the animals and work it into an environment. Really cool idea. I hope we see something like that in future seasons. It'd be really cool to see. But otherwise, that's my thoughts on it. Any final thoughts for you guys before we go into the next episode?
Just that it was a really fun episode. I thought splitting up the teams, and we got to look at, is there a certain team member carrying the other? How complementary are they? How well do they think alike? Do they think at the same scale? Do they prefer one scale over another? I thought it was cool to see the different team dynamics kind of shape out and, really get a better feel for the teams. And then what they came up with at the end, I think was maybe a little bit, I don't want to say unfair, but it just really was a shame that some people who built drastically different models, they should not have been at fault for that, which is kind of what happened in this challenge as just a result of its format.
Totally. Final thoughts, Thrawns, before we get onto the next episode?
This challenge, I think, is the meanest one they've done. I thought the Lamborghini one would be the meanest one. No, this is mean. Because this feels like a college weed-out class. Like, you're breaking the weakest link for each team, and that is brutal to do. Is like, you start to realize... who's like really the main builder, who does what, who excels at what, and then bringing them back together to try a fusion of 2, what is usually going to be drastically different models and sometimes drastically different scales. That is hard to do for anyone, I think, especially when you're not able to communicate for the first half.
Totally. So it sounds like we're in agreement. It was an amazing episode. It was sad to see Dave and Richard leave, but that's what happens on this show. So if you guys are watching right now, we have 5 concurrent viewers. I'm talking to you directly. We're going to do another live stream literally in 2 minutes. I'm going to end this one so it uploads as its own recap of episode 9, and we will do episode 10 in just a minute or two. So hang tight, go to my channel, or just wait to see it pop up in your subscriptions in the next minute or two, and we will be talking about episode 10. Until then, we'll see you soon. And remember, keep your brick on! Get your brick on!